All right, welcome everybody to Interviews with Experts here with UprofitPro, and we've got an exciting conversation to share with you today because I have just been talking with someone who I've known for years in this business. In fact, he's been around the home business industry longer than me. He's one of the guys that when you look at the history of direct selling and the whole top tier sort of portion of this home business industry, here's a guy whose name comes up quite often, not just as a person who's made a lot of money, which is great, and you could be a marketer and do that. Certainly, I've done a lot of that. But this guy has also had experience on the corporate side of things, which I've had a little bit of, but not nearly as much as what this person has experienced. That his history is very revealing. So what I'm looking to get and share with everybody today, as we talk to this gentleman, is what it really takes from a marketer's standpoint, but also leveraging the perspective of somebody who sees the inner workings of companies and what really goes down like on the inside. Okay, and I'm not sure where this is going to go because we're just going to see. We're going to find out right now. So I'm happy to introduce everyone to Mr. Joe Neid today, coming from the United States. And Joe, I think you're in Arizona right now. Is that correct?
John, I live in a place called Carefree, Arizona.
Oh,
right down from me. It's very Carefree, Arizona. As a matter of fact, right down the street from me is the intersection of Easy Street and Ho Hum Drive.
Oh my goodness! Does any work get done up there? I mean,
well, as a matter of fact, truth be known, the place where I live is in a place called the Saguaro Forest, which is way up high. It's the very top of the Phoenix area here, the valley. And truth be known, I live on a street that's called Billionaire Alley. Right down the road from me is a VP for one of the major telecom companies, and it's an extraordinary, opulent, just beautiful place to live. There's, it's taken me a while to arrive here, but on any given day, there are literally herds of deer and all kinds of wildlife and beautiful golf course landscapes. It's a wonderful, wonderful place to live. If you're ever in Carefree, Arizona, look me up, John. I've got space here, man. You and Shannon can come with your new baby and spend some time up here. No problem.
That's great. You know, as much time as I've spent in and around Phoenix, Scottsdale, Mesa, Tempe, I don't know that I've ever even been in Carefree. I always thought of it as, well, it's someplace way out there where I guess people retire and ride horses or something. I don't know. I hear you guys. You got some cool rocks and stuff to look at. But I'll have to, I'll definitely have to check that out, Joe. Tell us about what it took to get up to that point, though, because it sounds like what you just described is sort of like, you've arrived. Okay, you've arrived at the top, and people have different visuals that they would attach to that comment or that phrase, but you didn't just show up, right? I mean, some effort had to happen, some decisions had to be made, and I would imagine you had to learn some stuff to get to the top. So tell us about this in your perspective after years and years and years. I don't know how long have you been in free enterprise and how that whole thing started. Most of our listeners right now would like to be full-time, or they are in some cases already full-time income producers with their primary opportunity. But still, what does it take to get there? I think there's a lot of guesswork that goes on sometimes on the part of the new person. So tell us about that. Well,
and thank you. Thank you for stating that so eloquently about the position or where I've arrived right now. And in fact, I feel as though I'm only beginning. Every single day what I do is hold myself accountable for where I am, for the decisions I've made that brought me here, and always looking in the mirror, understanding that the face looking back at me is the one who's 100% responsible for what my station is. Regardless of the company or the industry that you're involved in, I don't care if it's academia or athletics or the entertainment business or free enterprise or a guy at the car wash. You've always got to realize that it is totally 100% the product of your work. You're the deliberate creator of your own reality, period, end of story. I believe that. I live by that. And along the way, I've learned to really trust instincts and trust things like the law of attraction and taking action on a daily basis. Because when I take action, I'm setting in motion the things that must happen for me to come to my result. Whether I could be maybe working in left field one day, doing things that I think are going to bring me closer to my ultimate goal. In fact, when I look back in time, I say, I should have been in right field on that day instead of working in left field. But in fact, many times I look to my right, to right field, and the things I'm working for are coming true because I'm taking the action every single day, taking the action which ultimately brings me to my target. And I also have learned about leverage. My story goes all the way back to when I was a young kid with free enterprise. My father was a blue collar guy. He was a truck driver guy in a roofing warehouse. And he was a first generation American of Polish descent on the south side of Chicago. Really blue collar stuff. I remember him coming home from work and smell the smell of the sweat and of, the grains on his arms from the roofing shingles. And it was tough, man, and I can remember him telling me at a very young age to use your brain, don't be like me. Now, I'm glad I took his work ethic, right? Here's a guy who this guy, he went to work sick. I remember when we were little kids going on a vacation, maybe once or twice in our whole life, and my father having to go to a small phone booth on the fishing village that we were staying in to call back to his office to see if they needed him back there. And in fact, I remember him leaving us on vacation with my mother and my uncle and him going back because they needed him at quote unquote work. So I got that work ethic from him, every single morning getting up and doing what was required. But he taught me about using my brain, using my creative talents. What was it that really I can do creatively to make a living for myself? And I realized early on, I was like 10 years old, right? I had a paper route. This is like before the internet. Believe it or not, John, there used to be newspapers that would be thrown on your front.
I did that. Door. I did that. That was my first entrepreneurial endeavor back in New Jersey. I was, and it was in the snow, miserable New Jersey slush, and I was out there freezing doing the newspapers. And I don't know, was I making $10 a week or something? Yeah.
Right. I remember, I talk to youngsters, as I like to call them, who like newspapers. What are newspapers? What are you talking about? There's the internet, But there was a newspaper deal that I was in when I was like 10, 11 years old. And my brother he's like 3 years younger than me, and his best friend were hanging around one day, and they want to get involved. They want to make some money too as young kids. They need money for whatever it is, candy, whatever they're buying. And I realized then that I can set up a little leverage play here. So I made a deal with those guys that I would split the profit of my paper route 50-50. What I would do was have the contract. I was the paper route guy. I would get the papers delivered to my house. I'd roll them up, and then I'd put a rubber band around them and put them in this bag that would go on the bicycle handlebars. And I would give the bag full of newspapers to my brother and his friend, and they would go deliver. They would do the labor. They would deliver the newspapers. I would collect the fees, and I would split the money with them. I got to stay home and watch Leave It to Beaver and Andy of Mayberry. I was sitting back on my big couch, and these people were doing the labor for me. I figured it out early on, right? So that was actually my first endeavor into the entrepreneurial world. And then, John, I know that music is a passion of yours. I came through after that experience as a 10-year-old, like every other kid. I had a variety of jobs in high school and played sports. And I found myself just having this passion for the music business. That's what I wanted to do. And started out from scratch. Literally, I wanted to be in the music business so badly that I would move pianos, and I had a rock band in grammar school and I was the singer guy, but, I realized that talent was really not going to get me much further than the local talent show on the 8th grade stage. And so, so I got myself in position in the music business, free enterprise, freelance, no paychecks, no support, no benefits. Just, this is what I want to do. So I had to learn my trade, and I started out literally as a piano mover. And worked my way up, and became, just to fast forward quickly, I spent about 10 years in the big time music business and traveling the world, living on tour buses, flying around the world for big time rock and roll acts. And, it was really fun. It was a 10-year plan that I had. And once again, I was relying on my own instincts and my own ability. I had this vision for myself, and I knew that if I sat around just thinking about the vision, it wasn't going to come true. I had to take the action steps all along the way, make the calls, make the contacts, and it happened. It came true for me. And then you reach an age, as you probably know, John, in the music business, you've been in the music business, where it's time to move on. You're either going to be a bus driver or one of those guys that are rigging stuff from the ceilings, or you're going to have to do something else with your life. Well, that's when I really started learning how to develop my skill of communication. In our industry, if it's going to be a direct sales environment, communication skill and listening skill are the two things that are really going to serve you the best. After I got off the road in the music business, when that part of the journey was complete, I got a job as a booking agent in the music business. And I was working for an agent in New York, and he had an office in Dallas. I was living in Chicago then. And it was big bands. My heart and soul was in rock and roll, but again, I wanted to get in the door. So I took a job booking like Count Basie and Woody Herman and these big orchestras, right? Buddy Rich, a busload of musicians, And I was the last guy on the totem pole. The name of the company was the Willard Alexander Agency, if I can say that. And he was an older dude, and he had a lot of people around the world who knew what was going on, and they had experience together. And they brought me in as the last guy on the totem pole, right? And on any given day in that industry, as a booking agent for this big organization, I would get called into the manager's office of the office I was working in. And his name was Tom. And Tom would say, look, Joe, here's the story. We've got Buddy Rich and his big band on a bus. And they're in Dallas, Texas, and they're going from Dallas, and they're going to be in New Mexico. And they've got a 4-day gap there. And we have to get them a gig. They have got to play somewhere in the middle of these 4 days. So we're thinking that there's a city, I don't know, Austin, El Paso. They would give me a couple of cities they would suggest. They'd say, your job is to go find a concert that these guys can play. And oh, by the way, they need $10,000 because they got, 25 guys on the bus.
Right. Go sell it.
Go sell it.
Right.
And that's what I did. I would literally sit.